Hi, I'm Jo from Joanna Frankham Coaching. Welcome to my very first Facebook Live. I specialise in helping people, usually women, who are experiencing chronic illness and chronic disease. And I work with them to help implement diet and lifestyle change to mitigate the symptoms of their chronic disease. And I love my job. One of the key ways that we do that and that we achieve these changes is by slowing down to go fast. And so it seemed logical that today, for my first Facebook Live, we would talk about that. So this idea of slowing down to go fast isn't a new one. In fact, Emperor Augustus, back in the Roman Empire, was quite famous for his festina lente, which is Latin for make haste slowly. And the premise for that is that if tasks are overly rushed, if we dive in headfirst without thinking about things, then mistakes are made and good long-term results are not actually achieved. So there's not a lot of point to diving in headfirst without giving something some thought. And the phrase relates to this sort of somewhat counterintuitive notion that if we slow down at the beginning of a process and during the course of a process, and we are thoughtful about what we plan to achieve, how we're going to do that, it enables us to go much faster in the end and ultimately to be far more successful in the same amount of time. And I guess an example of that is people who are very busy, and let's face it, that's most of us in today's world. We can have a sense of overwhelm. We haven't got time to sit around and make plans. We just have to get stuff done. And often that causes us, hey Mon, nice to see you, thanks for joining. Often that causes us to work inefficiently or perhaps suboptimally, and this is because we're so busy executing that we haven't really taken time to sit down, that there might be a better response, a better result if we frame or reframe how we're going about things. So pausing and slowing down is a great way for us to sort of ascertain whether we're on the right path, whether or not there's a better way for us to do what we're trying to achieve. And this really applies strongly to this healing protocol idea. So regardless of whether you are following an autoimmune protocol template or some other sort of template, slowing down to go fast is a really good catch cry, if you like, especially if you're just starting out, but also if you are some way into your journey, because this is what allows us to think critically and to break the protocol down into very manageable steps so that we are less overwhelmed and we can approach it in a far more systematic way. Does that make sense? So when we apply that to healing and health, it is all about identifying frameworks and tools and rituals that support you in your healing process, your healing caper. So we want to conduct a lifestyle audit, if you like, before we start or while we're in the process of our healing protocol, before or rather than just jumping in head first and going for it, because it's not the best way for us to achieve success. So the sort of questions that we should be asking, things like, where are we now? What have we achieved so far? Where do we want to be? What do we need to do to get there? Where do we start? What are the priorities? And from there, we can set some measurable, smart goals And we can also, even perhaps more importantly, work out what we can release from our lives, things that are not serving us. And we call that crowding out, right? So what we want to do is include more good stuff and push out some of that less than constructive stuff in terms of choices that we make that are not serving us, that have contributed to this chronic illness that we're experiencing. And especially in today's world, we have been celebrated for our multitasking, and this is particularly for women. We now know that multitasking is a myth, right? We end up performing many tasks less successfully when we multitask. So we want to really actively stop celebrating this busyness that we go through. And we want to learn to prioritize me time. And we want to stop putting everybody else in our lives before we put ourselves, because ultimately that doesn't serve anybody. So today I wanted to give you just a few ideas in terms of what you can do to perhaps put some frameworks in place to help you go slow to go fast, if you like. So we want to look at establishing routines that support our health experience. So the first one is to keep a food and mood journal. I've recently written an article on that on joannafrankham.com because this has been such an instrumental tool in the healing experience for every single client that I have. Because if you don't track what you are doing and you don't track what is happening in your healing experience, how do you know what goals to set? I'll put a link to that underneath this video today. You might consider writing some morning pages. So Julia Cameron wrote The Artist's Way. Morning pages are a practice that you can start where you get up in the morning and you write longhand 3 sides of a journal, and you just get all this noise out of your head to free up space to be looking at other things that serve you really well in your life. I'll put a link to that underneath this video too. One of the things that has really helped me is the creation of a morning ritual that serves me. So things that I do in the morning for myself that have nothing to do with checking email, nothing to do with checking in with social media, a little routine that is specific to me, that brings me joy and helps me set an intention for the day. It includes a morning walk into the sun to help set my circadian rhythms. It includes actually physically setting an intention for the day. It includes having breakfast, because we know how important that is. And the Paleo Mum has just written an article on that over on her site, which is well worth checking out. It includes moving my body. And it includes some me time so that I don't get caught up in the busyness of what everybody else is doing in the world, and I just focus on me for the first sort of hour of the day. One of the ways that you can slow down to go fast really quickly, a technique that works very successfully to sort of shift you into the parasympathetic state and out of fight or flight very quickly, is the yoga pose of legs up the wall. It is something that you can do very quickly, and it automatically shifts you, because it's an inversion, into a parasympathetic state. So it's one thing to consider if you need some downtime, if you're having a particularly stressful day. And there's another technique that I find really helpful. There is a mnemonic, stop, and all you need to do is remember that stop stands for slow down. Slow down and focus on your breath. Slow down by pressing your feet into the floor. Slow down by pushing the heels of your palms together so it gets you into the present, and stop worrying about yesterday or tomorrow. Take note. Look around you wherever you are right at this moment. Notice what you can see, what you can hear, what you can touch, what you can smell. Notice your thoughts and your feelings. Open up Instead of responding to your day on autopilot, really consider consciously making room for your thoughts and feelings, recognize them, observe them, acknowledge them, and then P, pursue your values. And this is a really important one, I think, in today's world. Reconnecting with your values and making choices that align with your values, that move you closer to your values rather than further away. It's a great one for when you have a difficult decision to make. Checking in with your values. How is it serving me? And if it's not serving me, do I really need to do it? So we've got S for slow down, T for take note, O for open up, and P for pursue your values. Stop. It's a good little mnemonic, especially when life sort of throws you into overwhelm. So, hey, Kirsty, nice to see you. That's my first Facebook interview, Facebook Live for you today. If you need some help in slowing down to go fast, I'd love to hear from you. Just pop an email to me, joanna@joannafrankham.com, and perhaps we can work together to implement some incremental changes that make a difference to your health over time. And if you have enjoyed this video, please let me know. I'd love to have some feedback. If there's anything you'd like me to check in with, I'm hoping to make this a regular event on my Facebook page, and I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Over and out from Sydney. Bye.